What do I have that's good enough for God? I mean, He's God, and I don't feel like I can ever compare. I'm not the smartest, I'm not the fastest, I'm not the bravest, I'm not the most well equipped, I'm not rich or famous, and I don't know if you feel like this too, but if you do, today, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about offering and what we can give to God. Let's dive right in. Welcome back, everybody. My name is AP Raleigh, author of Abide, and I make Christian content to help us grow in our faith. If that's something that you enjoy, go ahead, like, and subscribe down below here, and let's dive in. So when we are talking about offering and what we can give to God, there are so many routes we can take, so many things that we can look at. And, I think I'm going to end up diving into a lot of those. I've already had I don't know how many questions on the faith and works argument and what that looks like. And that all ties into this. Last week, we went ahead and set down a foundation for what we're going over today, which is worship, what that looks like and what the heart of worship really is. So if you missed that, check it out up top here. And now that we've got that out of the way, I want to get into literally what can we give. And this is such a huge source of burnout for, I think, every missionary I've ever talked to, as well as myself, that even if we're preaching differently and, we know how the system works, oftentimes you just end up getting in your head and you start doing stuff for God so that He'll love you, or so that He'll be proud of you, or so that something will happen, or you're looking for a change to happen. You're really not, it stops being about God, even though that's exactly what you're doing. That's what you're preaching. That's everything to you, but you're not seeing progress, and it's frustrating. It's like, God, I'm giving. Is it good enough? Is it not? And then you start to get in your head, and I know this isn't everybody, but it's a lot of us. And you start to get in your head and just think, well, maybe I don't have anything to offer. Maybe it's not good enough. Or maybe you're just sitting in church and that's not been your experience at all. You haven't gone down that route, but you're just thinking, oh my gosh, there's got to be more than this. This song is so, oh gosh, it's not, this ain't it. I'm sorry, but if you tell me to worship, and if you guys went back and watched my last video, if you look at worship, and God is supposed to be this awe-inspiring thing that we are literally just falling to the ground in front of because He's that impressive, not because we have to, but because that is the literal guttural response to God. How is that, this sing-song offering that I give every week, and it's not much. And of course, we can always go down the tithe route, and I think we will at some point, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're not talking about the tithe. We're talking about the above and beyond, the gifts that we're giving God. Is it money? Is it time? What is it? And a lot of arguments have just been stemmed around, it could be anything. And that's not a bad way to go. But there's more. We're actually going to go deeper, because it really can genuinely be anything. It can be your time. It can be your energy. It can be your money. Anything that's coming out of this place of worship, it can really be. But there's more. That's not the whole picture. That's just half of it. Because we start going, and this is the big caveat that we go into, and where we get stuck in the middle. And it's funny because you read through the Bible, and even if you put all the passages that talk about this side by side, they don't contradict each other even a little bit. Like it's not even confusing. It's the out of context that we pull them that makes this so confusing, because we talk about, the woman who had nothing, and she gave those 2 copper coins, and Jesus is like, man, this lady gave more than all y'all. That's awesome. We're going, look, we should be giving God everything. And even if we have so little, it's, whatever we can give God, that's going to be this beautiful thing. And then we go back. It's usually more of a sentiment. I rarely hear the Malachi verse quoted, but it's usually back in Malachi 1, where we start talking about, what you're giving is not good enough. And that verse was super specific to the offerings that were being given to God were kind of because we have to, or maybe trying to manipulate God. There's a lot going on in that passage. I'm not going to try and unpack, but what's going on is they're giving substandard offerings to God. Or they're saying they're going to give something to God and then giving Him something less instead. And Malachi comes in speaking for God, going, yeah, this is not okay. Would you give this to your governor? Would he be pleased? Would he be happy? If the president walked in and you were serving him dinner, would this be good enough when you've got better? And the answer is no, because they'd offered up better and then gave this junk that they had. Um, their motives, I'm not going to speculate on, but we do that a lot too. And a lot of times it's either out of this feeling of obligation or like, hey, if I give God enough, he's going to, he's going to give me stuff. And that's going to be good. That's what I'm doing it for, is so that God will give me things. And a lot of the prosperity gospel stuff ends up coming from that direction, is, I'm going to give everything to God because then God will give everything to me. And I know he's going to do that because he says he's going to do that. And that's great, except that we've missed the point. And this is the heart of offering, the heart of giving to God. The thing that I found, and as I was sitting thinking on this, I really want it to be time. I want time to be the most important thing I can give to God, because it feels like the most valuable resource I have, more than even money, because money comes and it goes. And if it comes and it goes, I'm sorry, I can't call that my most valuable thing, because it's only as good as what you do with it. If I give you money, that's not necessarily valuable, because if you go and, I don't know, drop it in a river, let's say, well, was the gift valuable? Not really. I mean, on my end, yeah. On your end, no. Okay, so that's kind of hard to say. But maybe it's time. And if I give God my time, I have a very limited quantity of that. It's ticking away every day. It's not something that I can, jump in and get more of. That feels so valuable to me. And I think we usually call that our most valuable resource. How much we hate when people waste our time, or when there's issues, especially in American culture. That's a big thing. But the more I got into it, it was like, that's so close. And you're right on the tip of the iceberg here. And I think I felt like God just kept telling me, and I went back to scripture, because again, I love fact checking God, but it's spot on that it has nothing to do with the thing itself that you're offering. It has everything to do with the intent with which you give it. And that sounds confusing, but I can give something begrudgingly, or I can give something joyfully to another person, and it's not going to look any different. The gift is exactly the same. But if they're seeing my face, watching the disgust that I have for them when they open it and take this thing that cost me a lot, is that really a gift? Is it good? Is it worth it? No, it's not. And they might even feel bad about the fact that I gave it to them in the first place. It's not a gift. I'm sorry. So the question is, what we're giving to God, is this the best that we can give in the circumstance? And that doesn't mean you need to be better. It doesn't mean you need to go out and be a better person before you can give God a gift. This is why I love that whole 2 copper coins lady that had absolutely nothing, and she's giving the literal junk she has left. Now that's a couple of pennies for us. It's not worth a whole lot to her. It might have been worth a lot. It might not have been worth a lot. I don't know her circumstance and where this came from. I really don't. But what I do know is that she gave what she could at the time. And the people that Jesus is condemning at the time have plenty to give and are literally weighing the cost of giving more. Or, if I give all of this, what am I going to get in return? That's not what you do it for. You don't do it for the tax write-off. You don't do it because it buys you some equity with, a church group that's going to help you and that's going to push you to another level. It has nothing to do with anybody but God. That is it. It's you and God. And as soon as we lose sight of this focus that it's about me and God, as soon as we lose that, we start losing the fact that it's a gift altogether, because it's not about God. So the further I dive into this, and yes, it's okay if there's other things. I'm not telling you can't get a tax write-off for donating somewhere. I'm never going to do that. It's okay that there are other things that come along with, but is that the point? Is that the purpose? And is that actually a deciding factor for you? That's a really big one. Like would you not do it if that wasn't there? And maybe it's not that. Maybe it's, when you go to church and they're doing worship, are you just kind of giving whatever you give because, well, frankly, I'm not feeling it, or this seems dumb? Or are you sitting there talking to God going, God, this seems really dumb and I want to give a lot more to you than this. This isn't enough for me. Show me how I can give you more, because you gave it to me to start with. Because this isn't all about money. We really want it to be all about money, but this really genuinely is about your time, about the artwork that you give God, your creative ability. I write, and all of the time I sit in the back of church services because I have a really difficult time engaging with the music, and I write. And I just sit back there and write poetry to God, or work on the next book for God, or do something for God about him. And oftentimes those just get deleted. It's very rare that I'm willing to share any of that with anybody because it's not about anybody else. It's about me and God. But there are going to be other times where I want to bring people into that, or where God asks, hey, as another gift to me, as the next step for you, would you be willing to share this? So I make something like this, and I've done my best to make the most beautiful thing I can and speak for God the best that I can, knowing that I'm not going to be the best out there, knowing that very few, if any, people are going to watch, and that's okay, because it's not about you. And it's the one thing they say, oh, you want to make it about who your viewer is. If you want to grow, if you want to do things, it's all about them, and it's all about them. And that's great, but it's not, because it's actually all about God. I want you to get the chance to see that. So that's why I do these. That's why I'm sharing everything, is so that you can see a part of my gift and a part of my offering to God. And it's funny because every single time I start to lose sight of that, every single time I forget that it's about God and about God alone, the burnout comes rolling in as if it was waiting at my door, just ready to kick the darn thing down and burst in. And every time I feel that, I start stepping back and go, nope, let's reorient. This is about God. What gift can I give him today? And how can I grow closer with God today? So I hope that's encouraged you in your faith, and I hope that you're able to give God that gift. I hope that you're able to start distinguishing between the times when we're just doing this out of routine, or when we are actually giving something to God that matters, which first and foremost will always be your intention. Your intent is what matters most to God. And if you're not giving him the intent, if he's not the forefront of what's going on, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, because you know what? Everything can fail. Sometimes God's even 100% fine with that. And that sounds insane, but he's fine with it because it's the intent that matters. It's literally the thought that counts. How often have we all wanted that to just be a thing? Anytime you got a holiday, you just be like, I am so bad at giving gifts. I really wish I could just give you this, and it would be the thought that counts, and you would just know that you're loved because I got you something, even though I'm really bad at this and I have no idea what I'm doing. That's what it's like with God. That's what he wants, understanding he has everything already. There's nothing new under the sun that we're going to be able to give him except for our intention. That's what you have to give God. That's what he desperately wants. So I encourage you to go out this week, build something for God, build something for God, not for anybody else, not for yourself, not for posterity, not for money, not for anything but God, and let it be his. And ask him what he wants you to do with it. I can't tell you how many poems. I had a list of 300 that I threw out because God said they were mine. His, not mine. They were for him. Years of work. I'm so happy I did that. It seems like such a huge waste, but here's the thing. It was for God and God alone. There's going to be things that in life, and I'm not saying you need to trash everything. Saying you need to give it to God and make it actually for God. So I hope that encourages you this week. Tell me how it went.